that base, essentially, since he was attacked by Bragg and others, there's a real chance it grows. I mean, there's a real chance that it's a strange character to run against. Who would have thought that indicting him got him a 20-point bump? I mean, it was a massive bump. There's a real possibility if they indict him 2 more times, they'll win by acclamation. Because and there's a reason for it, actually. The Republicans know it's phony. The Republicans know when he gets criticized for stolen election, maybe he shouldn't do it. Maybe it's not politically smart, but they know he's telling the truth. And now that you see the revelations of the Durham committee, right? What the FBI did, why wouldn't they steal the election? I mean, what's the difference between, spending millions of dollars to develop a phony plot that you use to try to stop him from being president? You then corrupt the entire government with it, including the intelligence agencies and the FBI, and you try to remove him from office based on a false and fictitious story. I mean, have we had a worse crime in America in terms of a political crime? I mean, let's just sit back and think about it for a minute. This is what the Durham report, and it took 2,000 years to develop. By the way, they had it before the 2020 election, and Durham should never be forgiven for not having written it up before. But in the period of time in the next 3 years, maybe he gathered 2 more pieces of evidence. But in any event, there's no doubting now that Hillary Clinton paid $1.1 million to the Perkins Coie law firm in order to launder it, who then paid it to global scumbags, Global International, who then went and developed a completely false Steele dossier. Not written by Steele. Steele hadn't been in Russia for 17 years. The FBI never pointed that out to the judge that signed the affidavit based solely on the Steele affidavit. That's made clear also. They lied about that. So the judge is never told that the man who says all these things, all these terrible things that Trump did, hadn't been in Russia, and they all happen in Russia, or most of them do, hadn't been in Russia in 17 years. And that the man got it from another man who's not identified. And that man is Danchenko. And Danchenko was an FBI spy. But Danchenko was a counter spy. He also worked for the Russians. And the FBI had him under investigation, and it never resolved who was he really a spy for. Was he theirs or ours? Never resolved it. But then they pay him $1 million and they take his information. And they use it. And they don't tell the judge any of that, which means they lied to him. They lied to him. Then it turns out that Danchenko really didn't have this information. He got it from a Democratic operative who had most of the information. And then when you go back and ask both of them who did it, they both lie. And then there's a Russian girl named Galkina who also got a lot of information. And then it turns out that it is based on nothing, and it is all untrue. Every single bit of it is untrue. There isn't a single thing there that has been verified. Not a single thing. And I'm going to tell you something really interesting, and I told you this 4 years ago. I've read 100, 200 more than that, intelligence reports. I've written Pfizer affidavits. If you read that and you think that's legitimate, you should go get another job. I mean, if you work for me and you read that and you came in and you said, those days I was Mr. Giuliani, we're going to go with this. I'd read it and I'd say, get the hell out of here. You're gone. You know, remember how Trump used to say on Apprentice, fired? I'd say fired with a letter that nobody should hire you. Oh, and by the way, go to your law school and get your money back because you're an idiot. It is not written like an intelligence report. Trump peed on a bed. Trump was an agent of the Russian government 10 years ago. And then Comey lied his backside off, including, well, it can't be corroborated. I mean, it was too hard to corroborate. I hired Jim Comey. And to some degree, I trained him, which is a hell of an embarrassment. And the stuff that you could corroborate in there jumps out at you if you were the first day detective. How about Michael Cohen is alleged to have gone to Prague to meet, very important meeting with Russians that he was colluding with, whatever colluding is. Well, now, you already figured it out, right? You're the FBI. You have access to all the travel records. Don't you check? I mean, it's like a simple phone call. I'm sure. Francis, what's his name? James Cardinal Comey would not deign to make the phone. I don't think he's made a phone call in years. So he would say, please call the passport office for me. And the passport office would call and say, would you check and see if Michael Cohen was in Prague on X date? Absolutely. This is for the director. Of course, look at it right away. I'm sorry, he wasn't in Prague. And we went further. You know something? He's never been in Prague. Oh. First possibility, I have a liar here. First. Then it says there that they had a big meeting in the consular office, the Russian consular office in Miami, Florida. Gets the 4 people that were there. Wow, that's a good one. We'll call them up and see if they have a record of it. Whoa. That'd been really embarrassing because there is no consular office in Miami. I don't know. I can go on and on. Now, here's the worst part. And for this, Durham should be held in disgrace forever. He doesn't recommend prosecuting anybody. Comey should have been prosecuted 4 years ago when this first came out. Had Barr prosecuted it, I don't think the cover-up of the hard drive would have taken place. Now, Comey had to be prosecuted. He just completely lied. He submitted an affidavit that said verified. He signed it under penalties of perjury. And I just showed you how it wasn't verified. And I can give you 10 more examples. And he got away with it because he's a Washington insider, and Barr turns out to be scummy. He's part of the Washington scum. But had he prosecuted him in mid-2020, they wouldn't have had the guts to go through the massive conspiracy of withholding probably the most significant piece of evidence ever produced in an American political election, Hunter Biden's computer that demonstrates, computer alone, about $50 million in bribes. Also, easier crimes just to see immediately, like illegal possession of a gun, child pornography, money laundering. So had he been held accountable, maybe you get a fair election in 2020. And now, once again, nobody's being held accountable, which means, ladies and gentlemen, this can happen again. No reason for it not to. Nobody, not a single one of these criminals has been held to account, while Trump people have been tortured. Well, we're going to move on to the subject of the border, the migrants, and the chaos that's going on in America, because we spend a lot of time talking about Ukraine, but we've had an invasion in America that's much bigger than the Ukraine, with more fatalities. And I'd like to ask, if you would, Rebecca Brannon, would you come up and join me? Hey. Rebecca is
Hold the chair up.
No, Rebecca, I have to warn you, as I do everyone, about this microphone. It's a beautiful, wonderful microphone. However, it's very sensitive, and you got to talk right into it. So right you push yourself all the way up.
And there, if you move to the right a little bit, we're going to try and frame it. Is this on?
Yeah, that's on.
You want to move over, Mayor?
You want me to go that way?
Yeah, there you go.
To your left.
My left. Okay, so Rebecca can come in a little bit.
Rebecca's going to keep coming in.
What kind of hat does Rebecca
I think I got
have
it
on?
in.
I'm looking. I got to see Rebecca's.
I'm right here.
Rebecca, I love that
What's
hat.
the hat? Yeah, talk about that hat.
Wow.
Well, I got to wear a New York hat when I'm in New York.
But I mean, it isn't quite the Yankee logo, but it's close. It's close.
It's close.
Do you know that the Yankee logo comes from the New York Police Department?
Did not know.
It comes from Theodore Roosevelt's badge as the chief commissioner of the police, and somebody on the Yankees found it, and then they made that NY out of it because that has that NY, which is a little different. It comes right in like this. I'm sorry.
Well, I hope you don't
Yeah.
mind that I have it on. I've been out in the field, so when you're
I
out walking
like it.
around, yeah.
What do you mean do I mind? I'm going to mind it NY? I love it. In fact, I want it. I may steal it from you. So now tell us what you tell us what you do, Rebecca. I know you've spent a lot of time covering the illegal migrants, not only in my city in New York, but also in Chicago and possibly elsewhere.
Yes, yes. So I just got back from Chicago. I was there one day, Sunday, and just one day I visited 8 police precincts. And if people follow me,
What did you start at 5 in the morning?
it took us longer than we expected with me and my cameraman, but it took quite a bit.
Is your cameraman big?
He's not. He's the average guy.
Tough guy.
Yeah.
You better be, baby. In Chicago, how many people got killed on Sunday in Chicago? I mean, the big news on Monday is how many get killed over the weekend.
Right. And that's just the thing. I spoke to a lot of police officers who are now having to deal with taking care of these migrants, looking after them.
I never thought of that. That's a new burden, right?
They're acting as social workers, and it's taking them away from their daily duties as police officers. And one told me anonymously, he spoke off record, hey, we had a shooting just the other day, and we were so tight. We were shorthanded already dealing with the migrants and now having to deal with crime. So that's the new burden they're experiencing there in Chicago. But people are living on top of each other in these precincts, inside and out. There's everywhere. If you
the precincts are being used as homeless, what do we call them, shelters or?
Essentially, yes. I don't know where they shower, but they are living there. They're using the bathrooms, the same ones that you would use if you walk in the precinct. They're just sharing the space, living there in the lobbies, essentially on the floor, sleeping on the floor. I don't know where some stations had mattresses. I don't know where they're getting some of these supplies because, as far as I know, they're not receiving any supplies or help from the city or the government. Local residents are helping provide, and the officers themselves who have purchased.
So Biden, I mean, the federal government provides nothing, even though he let them all in.
Essentially,
they're here because he invited them.
Essentially, yes. As far as I know, speaking with the officers,
And we do nothing at the border, not a single thing to stop them. We deal with them after they come over the border. In fact, when he first put troops there, we were all excited. Oh, he's going to put troops there. And then I talked to my people she did. Maria talked to our people in Texas, and they said, "Oh no, the military are there to help assist them, not to stop them from coming over, but to actually act as escorts for them."
I agree with that. I was at the border a few weeks ago.
Okay, so you know
Yep,
it. Yeah.
Yep.
What was your experience like down there?
Well, I was down in Brownsville, and
okay.
essentially they just process the migrants, ask for their name, origin of country, and then they are bussed into Brownsville, get off.
But they're in the country already at this point.
Yes.
So I mean, the deed is over. They're in the country, which people should understand. That confers constitutional rights on them. So now to get rid of them is a process. And the process usually means they end up here for 4 or 5 years.
Right. It's there. They would receive their order of release papers. And I looked at them, and you've seen photos of them across social media. Some of those court dates to appear were out 5 years or more. And we have no idea how they're going to be tracked. And it's a very overwhelming situation and now it's spreading across the country.
So how many cities we're going to get to New York in a minute, but how many cities have you covered? Rebecca?
Well, I started at Brownsville before Title 42 was going to expire.
As they were getting, you were probably getting that rush before Title 42. Right?
And then I visited Chicago to see where the migrants are homeless, essentially, living in those police precincts. And this week I've been in New York City.
So now tell me about my city.
Well, you've got your hands full for sure. I've visited the Roosevelt Hotel.
Yeah,
and
Roosevelt Hotel used to be the headquarters of the Republican Party. And the first election I ever won was in the Hotel Roosevelt. And the first election I ever lost was in the Hotel Roosevelt. And that's also where Tom Dewey had to concede. Remember, Dewey defeats Truman?
That was at the Roosevelt?
Yeah, Roosevelt Hotel.
That's kind of close to Grand Central?
It was the headquarters of the Republican Party. Some Republican built it in 1930, and they kept it in the party. It was the headquarters of the Manhattan Republican Party until about 10 years ago.
Yeah, so it's definitely a historic location that's
Yeah, and it
now.
used to be a beautiful hotel. It's kind of run down a little
Mhm,
now, but it's
and
still a beautiful hotel.
no, it is, and now it's being used as essentially the processing center as far as I can kind of follow. It's very hard to come by information because we don't know where they're going. I see buses come and then leave, and then from the Roosevelt, they're being moved around the city. And some journalists have figured out where they're staying. There's one location, I'm not sure if you're aware, it's like a former NYPD police training facility
Okay.
that's no longer being used, but they've now put them there. Or you have reports of some schools.
Well, they had them in. I don't know if they took them out because a big. They had them in the gymnasiums of schools.
They did move from that
Parents
location,
went
yes.
parents went crazy, of course.
Mhm.
You know, I guess people should understand that these are not just like ordinary old-fashioned illegals. The old-fashioned illegals were basically, by and large, Mexicans coming over the border looking for work.
Mhm.
They were either looking for agricultural work or they were looking for work in restaurants or hotels, and then among them they would sneak in criminals. I mean, unfortunately, you can always sneak in criminals when you have illegal migration. The group now, nobody checks them at all. The only people who check them are the Mexican cartels, who do a good job on the other side of the border of screening them so that they can take advantage of the flow. So you can mix in with 50 of these people, 3 or 4 drug dealers, 2 or 3 people carrying fentanyl, people selling weapons, people involved in human trafficking. And because so many are coming in that way, it increases the people we don't see. And these are academic studies, but the lowest study is about 50%. So if 2 million come in and you register them, about 1 million came in, we never saw them. Never saw them. So who do you think they are? So the point that I'm trying to make is forget the old romantic notions of illegal immigrants and migrants. These are disproportionately people that are screened by the cartels. So you got some really bad people there. Plus, you have Chinese there.
Did see some Chinese nationals,
Now,
yes.
how do we know who they are? I mean, they could be poor Chinese coming here, or they could be being sent in by the CCP. I mean, the CCP is making a fortune off the fentanyl they're sending in. If I ran China, wouldn't I use this to get my spies in?
Yeah, unfortunately, I will say it was a learning experience for me. There was a lot that I wasn't aware of. When you go down the border, you do speak to some migrants, and they're grateful, but they're also greatly misled by their own governments and the cartel. You learn what a business it is.
Yeah, it is a business.
They're told, "Hey, pay $1,000 or something about that, and be sold the American dream," right? And they think when they get here, they're going to get everything, right? And
Right.
I don't think they expected to be sleeping on police precincts floor. And unfortunately, you do have a lot of people, as we're talking about, who take advantage, and,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the wrong people that get through.
Those people like that you talk to who seem to be relatively decent people, they're a front
They're pawns,
for getting the
essentially.
other people in.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, if you were a
These-
terrorist, wouldn't you just be saying, "Wow, what a great opportunity for me to get a bunch of ISIS people in"?
It's a humanitarian crisis. These humans are being used by our government and their governments. And I do have to say, our own government and the cities like New York, unfortunately, that have pushed for being a sanctuary city, have helped foster this humanitarian crisis. And now we don't know how to deal with them.
Yeah, the mayor of our city um, is really in a terrible situation. I think he realizes it now, but he almost has a very hard time complaining about it because he tries to push it back. He tries to push it back on Washington. He doesn't have the guts to say Biden closed the border. He doesn't have the political courage to say Biden closed the border. Look, if these Democratic mayors all stood up and said Biden closed the border, he would have to do it. But they don't have the political guts to do it. So they come up with all kinds of silly reasons. Now they're going to set up kiosks in department stores because there's so much looting in department stores, which is not just the illegals, it's everybody, right? And they're going to, the people that are looting, they're going to give them more social services to try to stop them from looting. You've seen the cash and grabs and the things that go on, and right, they're like it looks like the riots in 2020, except it's happening now. They come into Nordstrom's, They knock everything over. They walk out. These people are going to stop and ask for welfare. I mean, it's like stupid.
It's ridiculous. And Mayor, I believe, Rebecca, did you not get your start as an independent journalist during the George Floyd?
Oh my
protest?
goodness! And today is the anniversary.
That's right. Is that true? Were you out there on the street?
This was
3
where
years ago?
This is where I started 3 years ago tonight as an independent journalist.
When you say it started, you mean really started like your
I did.
first night as a journalist?
Mhm.
And were you a print or what?
Oh, there was a local outfit in Minnesota, Alpha News, that I was doing contract work with, and I still can't remember to this day what possessed me and another colleague to go out, because we knew something was happening, and I remember us just thinking, let's park far away in
Oh
case
my goodness! I
arrests
didn't know
start
this.
to happen and police start arriving, which never happened. Police never did
So, but
anything.
so what brought you there in the?
There was
so
unrest.
This was your first night as an independent journalist. So
I
you didn't
believe-
know what to expect.
I shouldn't say that, because I don't remember if today's the day Floyd passed away, died, or was killed. Because
We'll
the
check-
riots
let's
didn't
check it
start
out.
right away.
What's that?
It's
Let's
been
check
3
out
years.
the Floyd dates. Whether this
Today-
is the day he was at first attacked, or
Right. I can't even remember now when exactly the rioting started. I
But
know
what got you to the scene. I mean, what brought you to that
it
scene?
was about 9 p.m. and a lot of protesters were outside that third precinct. They didn't burn it yet. That took 2 nights later, but they were in the streets, Lake Street, Minneapolis, and standing off with riot police outside that third precinct, and the looting started. That was the first night of the looting.
Did you know what happened at that point?
Yes, we were aware. Media was circulating that a man had been killed by police. We really didn't have a lot of details at the time, until obviously they came out, and we didn't know it was going to turn into a whole week of rioting
So
and looting.
you heard he was killed, but you didn't know the knee on the neck.
Well, yes, we
the
did, because that
circumstances?
video.
Because
It was
the
the video.
The video was horrifying.
It was
I
the
mean,
video that was going around. We knew this was not good. So we knew about the knee.
Did you see the video that night at some point?
Oh, that day, yes, or whenever it was. I not putting the dates together. If this was the day, it had to be the first.
The 25th. It says the 25th is the day George Floyd died.
So that's the day. That's the day he got arrested. That's the day that that they were on top of his neck.
Yeah.
So he was pronounced dead, I think.
And I
at
just
the
can't remember
hospital,
if the looting started this day or the not following day, because
I think it started that. I
it
thought
went through the
started that
whole.
night.
It
I
went through the
thought.
whole week. Yes.
But I think it grew.
Oh, definitely.
So is the third precinct the precinct that the mayor gave up?
And allowed to burn down.
Okay,
Yes.
I told her when that happened.
Do you ever have any? Yeah.
I told Dr. Maria when that happened, this will create riots all over the country.
I agree with you.
Having been the mayor of the city, you'd have to kill me to take one of my precincts.
It's very.
I go to the
yeah.
precinct, you have to shoot me. You're not going to get one of my precincts. And when the little boy mayor was about 12 years old. I forgot.
Mayor Fry. Yes.
He looked like he was about 12 years old, and he must have been scared out of his mind. But you don't give up a precinct. You bring your whole police force there and defend
Mayor,
it.
you would be out there before you gave that thing up.
If I had
I
a
know
police,
that for a fact.
I can't believe the police commissioner wanted to give up the precinct. It had to be the little boy mayor. Who gave it up.
There is still record of newscasts where local reporters were on air and on TV saying, "Where's the mayor? Where's the governor?"
Yeah, he killed the whole United States by doing that.
I agree,
Because that sends. Remember, you know this. These people are all organized. Antifa, Black Lives Matter, and other groups we don't even know the names of. That's like a signal to all of them. That's let me try it in New York. Let me try it in Philadelphia. Let me try it. And also, they knew something we didn't know so well then. That they had the fix-in with the DA. They knew they had Soros DAs in these places. I mean, the places where they did it are places where Soros put in the DAs, and ultimately, almost all of them went free.
Well, what I can tell you, what I tell others, that whole ordeal with the riots and giving up the precinct and the defund the police rhetoric, that emboldened criminals everywhere. And that's why I still believe we're seeing crime in cities all across the country because of that. And we're seeing the long-term effects.
Yeah.
You know?
And you're seeing a different kind of crime. You know, you're too old to remember the kind of crime I originally dealt with, which was
Too old?
more. What?
She's too old.
She's too young. I'm too old. And we'll be even older in a couple of days. But the crimes that are committed now, although statistically less than in the 70s and the 80s and early 90s, is exactly what you said. It's more bold. I think that's the right more bold or bolder.
But
it's bolder.
Older.
I would just say it
Bolder
it
crime.
emboldened criminals because they know police are afraid to make arrests I mean, you have some cities, like even in Minneapolis, now they can't do certain maneuvers or
Same thing here.
restraints. Yes.
It's one of the things that results in you see the difficulty the police have in putting handcuffs on people. So when I was the mayor, one time a guy came chasing after me right after I threw Arafat out of the UN. Some Israeli, not Israeli, obviously, a Palestinian guy comes out of a cab. Name strangely was Mohammed. He comes out of the cab. He starts running toward me. Mayor, I'm going to kill you. I'm gonna kill you. All of a sudden, before I know it, he's on the ground and he's cuffed. It was a female, one of my females on my detail, Patty Verone. Within, I would say, 3 seconds, she tackled him like she was a linebacker for the Minnesota Vikings, smashed him on the ground, put the handcuffs on, and I said to my guys, I don't need you. But I mean, I don't remember cops. I was a prosecutor for most of my life, and I saw a lot of arrests. I never remember the difficulty with putting handcuffs on that we have now.
If I may say so, I was here 2 or 3 weeks ago, and a lot of my footage then went viral. I was the one that was in the subways when they jumped on the tracks protesting for Jordan Neely. And I watched a lot of these activists or protesters really antagonize the police for a long time before they were able to arrest them. It's amazing
And
to me
aren't
to
the
see
aren't the
how
cops amazingly
they're very
professional?
passive. Well, they're professional, but I'm learning to see that certain days they're more aggressive than others, depending on what their orders are given. I mean, I'm understanding that, but the level of which you can antagonize an officer, it astounds me. I mean, I would say several years ago, you'd be arrested on the spot. You don't get to spit in their face and shove them with that, but they get away with quite a bit before they finally are able to arrest you. And then they claim victim, of course.
So you know about Daniel Penny, right? Sergeant Penny, the
Very much
Marine,
so, yes.
the Marine who is being prosecuted for murder because he tried to save the lives of the people on the subway. And you also should know that Mr. Neely's family has called for not only his prosecution for manslaughter, but they now want him prosecuted for murder in the first degree. So I guess he can go to jail for life. And they want the other 2 men who helped him prosecuted. But the person who was doing that, unfortunately, won't be able to say very much for a while. He just got arrested himself. His uncle is a hell of a family, by the way. His uncle has a long record. He just got arrested for stealing credit cards, and he was on bail and out for assault, some other larceny charges, beating up the police. That's Christopher Neely, who's been the spokesman for the Neely family. I guess they're going to have to get another spokesman because at least I don't know if he's out on bail yet. He'll be out on bail pretty soon. But that won't matter. And what I said just now will be considered very unfair that I brought this up. I mean, his uncle may be a really bad guy, but it doesn't mean he's a bad guy. But let's go back to him now. He was arrested only 45 times. I mean, some of the arrests include beating the hell out of a 67-year-old woman, kidnapping a 7-year-old child, beating up a 69-year-old man. And the day before he did this, he tried to throw somebody on the subway. And all during the incident, which was short, he was yelling and screaming at people. I don't care if I go to jail. I don't care if I get killed. And Mr. Neely acted when the guy, in a very, very aggressive way, pulled his jacket off and threw it on the ground, which is exactly when I would have reacted, because that's about the point where he's going to hit somebody. And we have a DA in this city who, prosecutes people who protect themselves or other people, and he doesn't prosecute criminals. It's a terrible thing. It's a terrible, terrible thing.
It didn't seem to me that Daniel Penny was going to be arrested. It wasn't until, they jumped on the subway tracks and made it clear they were going to keep disrupting traffic and protesting for days. And it's as if they gave in to make the arrest, and now things have quieted down. And that's mob mentality rule, if you ask me.
It's like the old West, right? They go get in front of the sheriff's office and say, "We want the guy arrested, and let's hang him up."
Well, Mayor, we definitely want to stay in touch with Rebecca. We'll have her plug her social media shortly, and maybe we'll have her back on. Maybe as we continue to improve our capabilities, have her report live from some of these sites. She's one of the best in the business.
I can see that. Can I ask her a few more questions? You trying to cut me off?
Didn't want to give it away, Mayor, but we have.
I know him. He starts doing things like.
Well, look, we have so many great conversations
Could I just say
Maybe
one
we
thing,
can bring
Ted?
her back in.
Okay, you can cut me off, but it is not particularly, it's not politically correct or sensitive to go like that.
Is
Go
that
ahead. That's a
true?
very, that you could be arrested for that.
I think this
in our
day and
system.
age,
It
I
would
think you're
depend.
right.
It would depend a little on race
you said,
and what the race, the various race combinations were. I don't want to say anything, but
I want to make so many more jokes, but I don't want to go any further, right? With the
no.
rest
I
of the
mean, if
jokes
I
we
were
can
if
make.
I were like Don Lemon and you did that,
yeah.
he'd probably have you arrested if you went like this.
And of course, look, but maybe we'll have Rebecca stick around. We want to, of course, get to.
Oh, we have
Elliott, PhD.
Okay, well, let's get to Kirk Elliott, PhD, and then we have a visitor from France, right?
That's right.
Okay.
And of course, it being Thursday, we're going to talk with Kirk for a couple minutes,
Okay.
and then we'll bring on our visitor from France. So,
Okay.
on that note, let's hear from our great friend and sponsor, Kirk Elliott, PhD.
Faith and family, freedom and finance are four things that we would do anything to protect. I trust the team at Kirk Elliott, PhD Private Advisors with providing the advice and sound strategies to take advantage of the inflationary pressures, the high interest rates, and the international challenges we face today. The Kirk Elliott team, with over 29 years of experience, shares our values and believes in people over profit. They can help you protect your finances from the big government policies that are out of our control. So what's in our control? The decision to act or not to act is within our control. I encourage you to act. Call Kirk Elliott, PhD, Private Advisors today. Start working with a team that will help you protect your retirement assets with gold and silver while sharing your desire to protect your faith, family, and freedom. Call them today, 720-605-3900. That's 720-605-3900, and tell them Rudy sent you. Or simply fill out a request for a free consultation at kirkelliottphd.com/Rudy.
And we're back.
I don't know what happens if we go to 1 million.
And we're on
Do we
Kirk
crash?
Elliott, PhD. Can you hear us?
Kirk, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Kirk, aren't you proud of us? Here we are on, among other things, Twitter, and we are having no difficulties. You see the head of Twitter and the presidential candidate had all kinds of difficulties yesterday. I think they should bring us in for a consultation.
I think they should too, Mayor. that would make them very smart, right? But I think that they already are pretty smart by bringing Tucker on, right, and doing a show with them.
Oh, that's really smart. That's gonna. I'm so
I think
excited.
that platform is going to be a new conservative platform. If Musk is really real about doing this, it might have some legs.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say, look, our highest up until 2-3 nights ago had been about 400, and we got to 650. The first night when he announced doing the announcement, so even just the publicity has helped us. So I'm very appreciative.
Yeah.
So
there's good to all of it, right?
Tell us what Americans. Oh my goodness! As we get closer to this debt crisis, it must make people feel, what can I do to protect myself? What's going to happen? And no matter how many times you talk about it, you just don't reach everybody. So could you just give us a little advice that calms people down a little?
Well, I mean, so here's the thing. We've got the negotiations have started again, as Biden gets back from Japan, because he's more focused on global relations than he is domestic ones, right? He canceled these negotiations while he was gone, and so McCarthy's just sitting there twiddling his thumbs. It's like, what are we going to do? So now they claim that they're getting close to a deal, right? But I don't see how. I don't see how this is going to happen, because here's what the Republicans are asking for: energy and mining permitting reform. I was like, okay, the Democrats are going to hate that because of the carbon footprint stuff. And they want to rescind unused COVID-19 funds. Well, wait a second. The Democrats really wanted to use that for something else, right?
To pay, probably to pay off their political contributors. But okay, all right.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. How else are you going to pay off those doctors, right? So there's new work requirements for Medicaid, right? So I mean, this is interesting because and this kind of goes along a little bit with some of the social policies that you were talking about with me last week. How New York wants to have a universal basic income for single moms of $1,000, right?
Wow.
So the debt limit bill passed by the House in April would require able-bodied adults with no children to work or train to work in order to stay on Medicaid, right? So they're not going to accept work requirements that's going to impact on medical health needs of people, Biden said earlier this month. So he doesn't want to rescind any of those COVID policies. Well, then they want to change current work requirements for food stamps. I mean, really what Biden wants is understandable in a pre-political era, right? A pre-election era, which is I'm not taking anything away from the voters until after the election, right? You can't, because that's what they're angling for, is to tell everybody, we'll give you whatever you want, use other people's money to pay. Well, this is why the debt ceiling issue is a big deal, because they're not really willing to budge on this issue. But that is going to cause massive amounts of inflation, Mayor, massive amounts of inflation. And when you have more inflation, when you have rising interest rates to slow down that inflation, when people are already living at the margin and they can't afford to live, I mean, what's going to happen? They're going to start pulling money out of the banking system. When they pull money out of the banking system, which after March of 2020, the Federal Reserve said zero reserve requirement. Banks don't have to have anything on hand. It's like, of course, it's easy to have a bank run when this is happening. So when they don't have to keep anything on. Well, it got worse last weekend. So the last time you and I spoke, this wasn't in the news, but so I have a friend that has a friend in London. So they were out in the streets. They went to their bank, which was NatWest Bank in London, big orange poster on the door. Well, here's what the poster said, and this is creepy because I'm not a prophet. I'm not making a prediction, but yet I am. I bet this is going to come to America, right? So the sign says, "Looking to withdraw cash?" ? Our primary aim is to keep customers safe and secure, and our branches follow our processes carefully to achieve this. This will include asking you questions about the purpose of your cash withdrawal.
Oh my goodness.
We may also ask for supporting documentation, such as an invoice.
Isn't it my money? Aren't I entitled to it, whatever I want it for?
Well, you would think so. So when you and I have talked about central bank digital currency on previous shows, they have the ability to cut you off from buying or selling based on your digital social profile.
I mean,
right?
We could go into, I mean, yeah, I always worried about that if they got into a further degree of technology, not doing it now. Wow.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're doing it now, but this is worse than that. This is worse than them saying, hey, we don't like your carbon footprint. We don't like the church that you donate to in the offering. We don't like the political party that you donate to. We don't like the food you eat, so we're going to cut you off from buying or selling. This doesn't have anything to do with buying or selling. This just says we are going to not let you withdraw cash unless you can provide an invoice of what the use of funds are going to be. So then here's their caveat, which says, okay, this is their angle. This helps us validate the withdrawal as genuine and protect you against fraud and scams. So this is how they're messaging it, right? But here's the issue. Why do they want to know what the invoice is? Because what if you don't have an invoice? What if you just want cash to give to your nephew for their birthday, $100?
Put it under your pillow.
What if you wanted to put it on your pillow?
Yeah,
what if you're going on vacation on a road trip and you're afraid that your card might have fraudulent activity, and so therefore you want to bring some cash? None of that has an invoice. None of it. So therefore, they're saying you can't have it. But here's where it gets even squirrelier, Mayor. Please note that it is advisable to give 24 hours notice on large cash withdrawals amounts over £2,000. what? Since when is 2,000 pounds a large cash withdrawal? That's like, say it's a couple $1,000. This tells me that they don't have capital in the banks. So number one, I think they're preconditioning people to say the government is going to let you take money out or not. They're in control. And number two, this obviously tells me that they're capital constrained. They're trying to avoid a run on the banks because that's why people take withdrawals, because they want to get money out. So here's the last eerie statement. In some instances, we may choose to decline the cash withdrawal based on the information provided surrounding the transaction. If you have questions, please review our T&Cs that can be found under Section 2.2. So what the banks are now doing is it's a preemptive strike against people saying, we're not going to allow you to withdraw cash because we're cash constrained. We don't have enough money, and therefore we don't want to run on the banks. But also, we're preconditioning people to realize the government under central bank digital currency will have the ability to cut you off from buying or selling based on your digital social profile. This invoice issue is similar to that and saying, we don't like what you're spending money on, therefore we're not going to give it to you. I mean, this is ridiculous. You know, being an attorney, it's like, what kind of freedoms are they violating here?
Basic right of property. It's your property. It's not their property. I mean, it's a core right of an Anglo-American law for 1,000 years.
Well, of course.
I mean, we go back to
property.
This one, Kirk. We go back to the Magna Carta.
It's the basis of America.
Yeah, I mean, this is ridiculous. So, I mean, I if it's going on there, and this would sound very attractive to the Bidenistas. I mean, this would be something they would love to be able to do, right? Wow. So now tell people what they can do to help themselves. We have to get people to, first they should realize they're only protected in the bank up to, what is it, 250,000, right?
Well, supposedly, I mean, that's what FDIC says that we're insured up to. But in December of last year, the FDIC was exposed because there's about $9 trillion worth of deposits in American banks. And they don't have that much. They have about 167 billion in assets. That's 1.38%.
Right.
1.38% of all deposits are actually insured by FDIC. Mayor, forget about the $250,000 guarantee, your insurance, because if there's only 1.38%, how much does it take to create a run on the banks?
No, not much.
About 2% of the deposits coming out. It's not there.
Not much.
Right. So anyways, forget about that. So really the key to safety is, and when we're looking at the future like this, and not even the future, it's right underneath our nose. It's happening in London last weekend, and it probably will come here, is get into something that's tangible, get into something that's private, that in a worst case scenario, you can use for barter. But really, when you're talking about tangible assets like gold and silver that you take delivery of, you're not somebody's digital slave in their digital world, right? So that's our key. But don't view it just as a way to protect your freedoms, your political freedoms, your religious freedoms, your economic freedoms, your personal freedoms moving forward, because that's what you lose when you lose the right to buy or sell. What we're looking at is something that's growing tremendously right now and gaining momentum. It's a function of supply and demand. It's a function of a flight for quality. It's a function of look, if you look at mining production globally and the massive amount of percentage of physical silver that's used for mining in one of the most sluggish global economies in the last 40 years, and it's still well over 50% of all mining production is used for industry. Well, what happens if you get a president like Trump or Trump himself that comes back and grows the economy? That the mining production is going to be gobbled up with manufacturing demand. And then people who own something, when there's not much available, the prices are going to go through the roof. This is low supply, high demand. It's economics 101.
Kirk,
right? This is the side of the trend that we want to be on.
I got to get you to help yourself now, because by helping yourself, you're going to help other people. You know how they say before you can help anybody on a plane, you got to put your mask on. Well,
Yes.
we got to get you to. These people have to call you 720-605-3900, and if they call, they'll get a consultation with an expert that works with you, right?
Either myself or one of the advisors that work with me, just depends on schedule. Our goal is to get with everybody as soon as possible because we know that fear is sadly captivating people's minds. It's engulfing them, and fear does two nasty things, Mayor. It either causes you to put your head in the sand like an ostrich hiding and don't do anything, or it causes you to make a wrong decision. We can eliminate that fear by showing a solution,
And I know you will, because
and focusing on that rather than focusing on the storm.
I have experience with it now, and this is a very, very important call to make. Whatever they decide, it's an important call to make because it'll give them options that they probably don't exactly know they have or how to execute them. And it isn't executing these options is not brain surgery. I mean, this can be done quickly if you want to do it, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely. I mean,
doesn't
it's
take
a free consultation. Take advantage of it,
and
because
then
we can show you how to eliminate that fear.
And then if you want to execute some of it, if you want to make a conversion to silver or to gold or to both, you can do it right away if you want or when you want to. But I mean, the point that I'm making is it doesn't take a long time to do this if you want to protect yourself.
Yeah.
It's a simple thing to do.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm going to urge people to make that call, and we'll be back again next week. And it's always enormously enlightening. And look, yeah, sure, it's frightening, but life is filled with frightening things. The most important thing is you've got to look at the options as to how you protect yourself in light of these things, the adaptations you have to make. And this is one that has to be made. And thank you, Kirk, for offering it to people. I really think it's a wonderful public service. God bless you and your people.
Oh, God bless. Thanks, Mayor.
Yep, we'll
We'll
back.
talk soon.
Good. What a guy, huh?
Bye-bye.
What a terrific guy. And he explains it so well. I don't think I understood the debt crisis as well until I started talking to Kirk and what it can do and how you can pretty look, there's no perfect protection anywhere, but how you can give yourself a certain degree of protection. And it does depend a little on the kind of assets you have and how to do it. And that's why talk to their people and then decide. But don't leave yourself in a position where you're just hanging out there with all this going on and this, not just the economic stuff, but all of the attempts they're making to invade your civil liberties and your privacy. I mean, basically, it's the aim of this Biden government to be able to go into your bank account and take your money right out. That's where they're going with their Leninist Marxist theory. They want to be able to go into John Doe's bank account and there's $3,000. We're gonna take that for climate change. The climate change that you probably don't think is happening, but you don't have a choice. Well, we have with us our visitor. I'm not even going to tell you who this is because she looks so different, dressed up as a French girl, French woman. And
Bonjour.
of course it's Justine. And
Justine.
Justine.
Just not the
Who
plan.
just came from France. She just came from France.
Very
Oui,
well.
oui.
Yeah.
France, I learned. It's not France.
France.
It's France.
France.
And if she was in Paris, she was consistently insulted because she's an American.
Oh,
True.
I've heard that.
Not in the rest of France. Not in the rest of France. If you get outside of Paris, if you get into the rest of France, it's wonderful. I really like France. You get into Paris though. They are so haughty. They are so, for years, Justine, they would make fun of my French. Je parle français un peu. So I talk in French, and they would say, don't talk French, but you're messing my language up. And if I said something a little wrong, they would get all upset. No. It's not l'homme, it's l'homme. L'homme. So now, when they talk in English to me, and they say, I take you to the cathedral. I say, no, it's cathedral. Cathedral. They get really upset.
Sounds like it.
Americans are really, really nasty. I said, I'm just imitating you.
Yeah.
So I want to talk to you, if you don't mind. And do you have something you want to bring up with us? Because I have a question for you.
Oui, oui.
Oh
We
boy,
should-
she's going to do French. Yeah, you have the simultaneous translation going, Ted. We don't have that
It,
yet.
it might be hard for non-bilingual audience members, although I know like 2 words in French.
We have one of the smartest audiences across the internet, so I wouldn't be surprised if a majority of our audience is
That
I
is
don't know what to
true.
call it, bilingual or well
Probably.
versed.
Problem in New York is they don't even teach English anymore.
Joe Biden can't even speak English. So
but not coherent English.
yeah, at least not coherently.
So now she really wasn't in France. That was a joke because of the beautiful hat that she has.
Oh, thank you.
Isn't that a beautiful hat?
I've never been to France anyway.
Oh, you should go. Oh my goodness, you'll have such. Have you been to Italy? Italy?
I've never been.
I don't know which will be worse for you, Justine. Italy, France.
They're a little.
Those men there.
They're a little too socialist for me.
Yeah, Oh, yeah. France. Well, look, Italy has a right-wing government now.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah,
And
and Greece just elected a right-wing government.
They also just tried to save. Years ago, tried to save baby Alfie Evans. I believe it was Italy that tried to get the family to go over there to give him medical care.
But they had a nice victory about 6 months ago. The Italian conservative coalition, and now just a week ago in Greece, the conservative coalition won, which is very, very interesting. It's very interesting that you see. It also is a pretty good predictor of where we're going to go. Remember, right before Trump got elected in 2016, England switched around on Brexit and went conservative.
Yeah.
And so let's see, maybe I'm just looking at tea leaves. So Target. Or should I say Target?
Target.
What the hell is wrong with Target? Please, you know, in a couple of days, I'm going to have my 79th birthday.
Happy birthday.
On the 20 on Sunday, I think Sunday. And so you have to be slow with me with these things because I'm very young in many ways. Thank God. I'm very healthy and I have ridiculous amount of energy. But I still have old-fashioned ideas, I guess. And Target has 2,600 transgender items, including for 1-year-olds and 2-year-olds.
And on top of that, they have a swimsuit where you can, if you think you're a woman, you're actually a man, you can tuck your junk to be it's disgusting. There's no politically correct way of saying it, but this is actually what
basically you they
have swimsuits where you can try to hide that.
You can hide the fact you have a penis.
Exactly. And now they're getting so defensive. They pulled some of these clothing items off their line or push them to the back of the store, but they say it's not because they realize this is absurd and that they're trying to appease a lie that a man can be a woman can be a man. But no, it's because they say their employees are receiving threats and people are being very mean to them. Angry parents who don't want their children to be groomed with pride onesies. You really
what was that? What was that? Pride
onesies.
What does that mean?
A onesie.
I know that isn't good, but you got to explain what that means.
A pride themed onesie, for example, is a onesie that says, if it's a onesie for little girls, it says, "I sometimes think about other girls." Wink, wink.
How old would this be? How old would this be? That you'd put this on a child?
If you're 1
years old, that means does onesie mean 1 year? Like my little Grace, they're gonna try to do this with my little Grace.
Yep. Or a onesie is when you're an infant, when you're a baby, you're not even 1 years old. You're fresh out of the womb.
I have enough problems. Assault would be really, really tough if I had to do that. But you did that to my Grace. I go back to my Brooklyn style. I beat the living crap out of you.
You make them disappear.
Oh yeah, there would be no. I mean, it would be like the old Italian to come out of me from Flatbush. I mean, you. What do you mean a 1-year-old? Come on, this is ridiculous. First of all, up until about 18 or even beyond that, kids don't know what the hell they're doing. Well, let's be realistic. I mean, that's why. That's why. That's why it's been universal that we had what we called the minor. You had a minority, and you were a minority. I don't mean a minority like racial. I mean age until you were about 18, and very very serious decisions were made by parents because young people, unless you're a totally abnormal young person, you change your mind 100 times.
Exactly.
I did.
But that's exactly.
I don't mean about sex, but I changed my mind about what I was going to be. I changed my mind about my life. I wanted to be well, maybe I did about sex. I changed my mind about being a priest. And there's a reason for it. It did have something to do with sex. But, I'm getting too personal.
You'd be a bishop, you'd be a cardinal by now, maybe the Pope. If you started early.
I don't think I'd be the Pope. I
Well,
don't
as
think
an
I'd be
American,
the
you're the
Pope.
Pope.
The
An
Pope
American's
is too,
never been the Pope. I'm just saying you
the
would
Pope
you
is
would
too
have risen
left
the
wing.
ranks.
The Pope is too left wing.
You would have risen the ranks, all right?
I don't even.
Mayor Giuliani.
He's not a commie. You have to be a
No,
commie
I
to be.
couldn't be a. I couldn't. I
You'd be the
couldn't.
cardinal at the very least.
I think I'd be a cardinal, like
I
Comey,
mean,
like
yeah,
James
it's a very
Cardinal
political
Comey,
institution, right? The
Rudolph
Catholic Church.
Cardinal Giuliani.
That's a nice ring to it.
I think it does, right?
I never checked this out completely. So when you and I go to Naples, we're going to check in Naples. My family used to say that we had an uncle, granduncle, granduncle who was the bishop, was either the bishop or a bishop in Naples. So I want to go to the cathedral there and see if I can find him and see if it's the truth, because these family things are often exaggerated for good and for bad.
Right.
But I want to know if he was really a bishop. I think he was, because I think my paternal grandfather lived with him for a while. I think so. My paternal grandfather died in 1925, long before I was born. So this is more like this is not like direct things I know. Like on my father's side of the family, I know some of my relatives in Italy. Like I met them as mayor. Many people would write to me and tell me they were related to me, and they weren't. And this group wrote to me and said they wanted to meet me in Milan when I went there, and they were related to me. And they did come from the same area. And one of them claimed to be like the relative of a brother of my grandfather. And when and I was in the mayor of Milan's office, and they all walked in, and I said they're related to me. They look just like my family. One of them looked exactly like my cousin. Another looked like my female cousin. Another one looked like my uncle, who had died. I mean, you could tell immediately. And then when we went through it, they were definitely my family. And they knew about my grandfather. They had all these tales about my grandfather. It's wonderful when you do that. It's really wonderful when you can go back and do that. So now I want to do that with my mother's side of the family, which, believe it or not, I think my maternal grandmother was born in the same town as DeSantis' family came from, a little town in Avellino called Gesualdo.
Maybe you're related to DeSantis.
I don't know if I'm related to him, but I think we're Goombas, as they say.
Goombas.
We're Goombas.
Goombas.
Same town. So that's a small little group. And like Dr. Maria, her family, oddly, comes from a little town about 20 miles north of where my family came from, Grottaminato. Which actually is a little bigger town. It's very
Small
interesting.
world.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
don't need ancestry.com to
No, I don't need it. Maybe I should get them though before I go, so that I have a little playbook I really want to go check that all out before, for my kids' sake, so they have it, and my grandchildren. I think it's fun.
That sounds
But
wonderful.
so what's going on? How do we get everybody back to male and it's so much less complicated if we have male and female,
Because that's
and then everybody knows what bathroom to go into.
that's the biological truth. That's science. And the left, they want to distort reality. And especially for kids, for young people. We spoke about, young people, especially teenagers, they're trying to figure out who they are. That's the phase in their life where they're rebellious, they're confused, and the left knows that, and they want to take advantage of that stage
Yeah.
of a person's life because they want to turn them against their parents, against their family, turn their families in. This is the Stalin's playbook, Mao's playbook with the Red Guard. This is a pattern throughout authoritarian regimes in
Thank God
history.
for you. I mean, so many young people don't know that. I have a gentleman who comes on my radio show a lot, Jimmy from Brooklyn.
Great. We love Jimmy.
Jimmy from Brooklyn is a scholar. What he knows about communism is unbelievable. And I check him out. I mean, at first I thought, well, I better check this guy out. Unbelievable. He's been acquiring this for years. But I also studied communism in school. I went to school during the height of the Cold War.
Right.
And I studied communism as a philosophy. And all of a sudden, it must be, I don't remember, 4 or 5 years ago, you see all these strange things happening. Like the first time I confronted this, my friend was the governor of North Carolina, Governor O'Rourke.
Mm.
He had been the mayor of Charlotte. He was a great governor. I mean, like 60% approval rating, whatever. And they started in with the what bathroom can you go in?
Oh, so
And he said, you go in the bathroom of your biological. And I said, that's great. You're safe. I might have even advised him, I didn't have to. Poor guy lost by 10% in North Carolina.
Unbelievable. That's the frightening part. You imagine just 5 years ago or maybe 10 years ago thinking that you would be deemed an extremist if you believe that there's a separate bathroom for men and women, and that's correct. That's how it should be. Men shouldn't compete in women's sports. Men shouldn't be in women's locker rooms. That labels you.
But what? Okay, if you want to believe that other stuff, right? Why do you want to label me as some kind of extremist nut when I believe what human beings have believed for 4,000 years?
It's because they're threatened by any view that questions this rigid conformity of transgenderism. And again, it's part of the Marxist agenda.
After 4,000 years of human existence, 1,000 years of human science, these poorly educated idiots have come up with a whole thing. I mean, half of them can't even speak or write.
They want to. Well, now they're teaching Ebonics in school. So
so they don't speak English anymore.
They want to exactly. And
well,
they want to completely destroy scientific rules and the rules of laws, beauty, and nature. The point of conservatism is to conserve all those, to see and conserve the what's good, what's true, and what's beautiful. And they want to destroy that because that's how you destroy a society. The people who are running this country, they hate us. They hate America. And how do you destroy a country? You destroy our values. You conflate what's true and what's not true. You conflate gender. Oh, well, now there's multiple genders. You can be any gender you want. You can make up a gender. And then on top of that, you get rid of our sovereignty. So you let all the illegals in. And you're not a country anymore.
So someday I'm going to get somebody to sit down with me, because I keep hearing there are 40 genders, 50 genders. I want to get past I can't get past 2, but I want to get past 6 or 7. I want somebody to tell me what's the 37th gender. Is there a chart somewhere? If I go online, would there be a chart of what these genders are? Or is it like is it like being an animal? Because there are some schools now that have litter boxes for kids if they want to pretend they're cats. You know that?
This is actually happening in New Jersey, where I live.
Okay. Well, before the mayor has a heart attack before his 79th birthday, which wouldn't be good, because she tells me any more of this stuff, I'm probably going to, my head's going to blow up. We're going to sign off. We're going to ask you to please do a couple of things for me. First, I love this guy. You have no idea how much I love this guy, Mr. Pillows. I know. And I don't mean, love the way these guys are talking about. I mean, I love him as a man, and I love his story, which I heartily recommend to anybody who has addiction problems. Would you please buy my pillows? Look, you have to have a pillow, right? I think. So get my pillows. You can get them for you, for your kids. You can get pillows for your chairs. Then, if you don't want to get pillows, this I heartily recommend. Get his slippers. I love his slippers. I even wear some of them outside because they're so sturdy, and some you wear inside. They're great. His slippers are great. The robes are terrific. But beyond that, you're supporting our cause, because this guy gives a lot of money to our cause. We're talking about saving America, saving our way of life. It can't be done without money. And it can't be done with our not doing to Target, what we did to Budweiser. Cut them off. Cut them off. What do you need them for? Just don't go there. Let them feel it. They only do it because they think they're appealing to the, I don't know who, the woke. Well, let them find out there are a lot more unwokes than wokes, and that'll stop them. About the only way you can do it. It is a capitalist country still, pretty much. We're hanging on. So just buy my pillows. They got thrown out of Target, by the way. They got thrown out of Walmart's. They got thrown out of about 20 places because the man is questioning the 2020 election. Hillary Clinton is still questioning the 2016 election. Why doesn't he have a right to question the election? And if the election is as solid as you think, what are you going so crazy for? So those of you who understand the good work that Mike has done, you buy those pillows. Same thing with Kirk. Kirk's a real patriot. You'll lose nothing by calling him. You're going to get some good advice. And look, you decide he can help you, or maybe somebody else can help you, or you don't want to make that move right now. But you owe it to yourself and your family to figure that out. And finally, you got to sign up now, early, quick, for a subscription on, yep. You know which one? The one that didn't work. That will work tonight, right? Twitter. You got to sign up on, go to Twitter. How do they get to my account? How do they sign up? Explain to people how they sign up for a subscription.
All you've got to do is head over to Twitter, on the upper right corner, hit that subscribe button. It's just $10 a month. And I want to remind folks, of course, you're not just supporting Mayor Giuliani and what we're doing here in our program, you're supporting the larger fight against censorship and for truth. Some of you out there may not even agree with everything the mayor's saying, but
I hope you don't agree with everything. I don't agree with everything I say. If you agree with everything I say, you're stupid.
But that small,
right?
That small
Don't you disagree with yourself sometimes? And you say, I was wrong about that.
Of course.
I'm right all the time.
Just $10 a month. And we're working directly with Twitter. We're not going to go any further than that. But they have been great. And we have some big, exciting.
No, if you become part of that, you become part of that charter group. First thing you're going to get are additional information that we feel comfortable sharing with people in a smaller group. Second, we're going to set up as soon as we have a critical mass, we're going to set up an hour to 2 hours of call-ins, because I know it's hard to get through. Both on my radio show, I always leave, I don't know how many people, we'll count sometime, at least a dozen waiting, and I feel bad. So then if you join, you'll have a special line, and you can call in, and we'll devote that hour to, and then maybe we'll turn it also into a chat room so that we can. I want what I really want. I want to get information from you, and you can send me information on RudyGiulianiCS.com. RudyGiulianiCS.com. We got a little box there. You tell me what you think, what we can offer you that would help you. Here's what I'm trying to achieve, so you can work on it. I'm trying to get you the information that's withheld, that's kept back, or, put a little thing down here. Giuliani cleared of all crimes that the FBI made believe he committed. That was like that big. And then when they raided my apartment 2 years earlier, there were big headlines. And then all the geniuses appeared on CNN saying, well, if the FBI raided his apartment, he must have committed a crime. And then I have a letter. I'll show you the letter tomorrow if you want. Letter to the grand jury. We investigated him for 2 years. They actually investigated him for 4 years. We couldn't, we don't have any evidence of a crime. 20 years of my life, they looked at it and they couldn't find a crime. Must be pretty honest, huh? Well, we'll be back tomorrow. Before tomorrow, however, you can go to rudygiulianics.com and get our wonderful podcast starring Ted. A lot of you guys want to see what Ted looks like because he's camera shy. You'll get to see what Ted looks like on the podcast.
We want the ratings to keep going up, man.
And you know what's going to happen? We're gonna have so many women. They're gonna be
calling him
like,
up.
remember, I don't know, you don't remember Frank Sinatra when they, when the Bobby Soxers would go, woo, woo, woo. Or Elvis Presley, woo, woo.
I'm a Sinatra fan.
What?
I sing Sinatra.
I know you do.
It's a side job.
I had no idea.
Yeah. But yeah,
Well, I think we know what we're bringing you on next for.
we're gonna find Ted a nice girl, as my mother would phrase it. We're finding.
Oh, and once we reveal Ted on that podcast, be no holding him back.
His
No holding you. Wait till
his
you see what this guy
notifications.
looks like. Whoa! And he is not. I got to be not trans, and he's like.
You're
He's
gonna
like,
have
he's boring. He's heterosexual, so he's very boring. But also nowadays, a white male heterosexual is an endangered species, so he needs special food, special treatment. You got to be very careful with them. They're all going to be wiped out. That's
They're gonna all be extinct.
This is what I try to do to get little extra benefits here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also plead that I'm an orphan.
I'm slightly Native American, more than Liz Warren.
Well, so is everybody.
That's true. That's true.
So is everybody. How
Damn.
slightly? Do you know the percentage?
No, I was going to test for it, but then Liz Warren beat me to
So
it.
why do you know you're partially Native American? Did somebody tell you?
My dad told me. It could maybe
Is it on your dad's side?
he claims it is. I think he wanted me to get free college.
Save some money on college.
Yeah, obviously.
I remember that. What was it? 10%? Maybe it's state by state, but I think in Michigan when I was going to school, if you could show you were 10%.
Well, she's only like. Is she any? Is she only like 2 or 3% or no percent? I don't remember.
I'm not sure.
Just
I think she may have been caught in a lie. I don't know that.
No. I think she had like a little. I think she had a 2 or 3%. Not enough to be Pocahontas, but 2 to 3%.
Just like 0 point or 0.0.
Enough to fail the alcohol test.
Yeah.
Oh, we're having too much.
And that note, why don't we?
Maybe we should have an 11 o'clock show and go up against Gutfeld. I mean, I love Gutfeld, but he works for a terrible network now.
I think we can take him. I think we can beat him.
Fox is disgusting. I mean, today they ran a DeSantis for president thing. I think DeSantis should get his hearing, and I think he should get it. But I mean, if I were the Trump campaign or one of the others, or the Ramaswamy campaign, or I'd go after them with the Federal Election Commission. The programming today on Fox appeared to me to be completely campaign propaganda. Completely. I mean, you can't turn the whole show over to one candidate. They never even did that for Trump.
They put his campaign website on the.
That's
very. In any event, ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow morning when you get up, you're going to do me a big favor. In addition to all these things you have to do, you're going to say a little prayer. However you say a prayer, you're going to say, "Thank God I'm in America," because you are lucky. So am I. Thank God we're in America, and God bless America. Our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil. tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. It was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply our God-given common